What's up guys, it's Actual Burrito here, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to tune your car on Forza Horizon 2 and Forza Motorsports 6. It's pretty much the same way on both games. The menu's a little different, but it's the same thing. So, I got my GT86 here. I'm not going to be doing any driving today, but I thought I'd just show you what kind of car I have. Actually, this is a rear-wheel drive car, and I was thinking about making it a drift car. So I'll show you how I set up my drift cars, but I'll also tell you how to set up, like, if you were to make a track, prep car, or all that other stuff. So first of all, you need to buy, when you're going to upgrade your car, you need to buy all the parts that you need to buy all the parts that, like, work on the chassis and all the suspension and wheels and all that stuff if you want to be able to tune every single part of your car. Like roll bars, if you don't buy the roll bars, they're not going to show up on here and you won't be able to tune them. So buy all the parts. Probably everybody does that anyway. So, alright, so we start off with tires. Tires. Alright, so the way I always lower them a little bit more anyway, all of them, but the way you set up your tire is always have it less psi where the power goes to. So like if you have a rear wheel drive car and the power goes to the rear wheels, then you need to lower them quite a bit there, because when it heats up it'll pump it back up, sort of like a, yeah, okay, so when tires get warm, like oxygen gets built up in them or something like that. I don't know exactly how it works, but it'll be more psi than you set up, so you have to lower it, so when it heats up it comes back to where it was. So I usually do it around rear. This is a rear wheel drive car. I put them at 27, and in the front I put them at around 28. Yeah, so but if you have an all-wheel drive car, for instance, uh, I'd put them equal, because the power goes to all the wheels. So you need to put them equally. Don't be doing, well, you could, but if you want maximum traction, I'd put them equally. But yeah, that's how I set it up. Also, what else is there? Front wheel drive, you would do the front wheels less and rear wheels more, opposite than this. And yeah, that's about it, I think. Yeah, it's not that hard. I feel like a lot of people have it figured out. Gearing, I don't mess with gearing that much, but that's pretty much, if you have a high-speed course or something, you should, you could get the gears and make it more towards speed, not acceleration. Depends what you're making it for. I usually don't mess around. They usually work pretty well. I have it set up as the manual, like, not the clutch, because I'm using a controller. I don't have a steering wheel or anything. I just use the shifting mode, so I shift. So I usually put them, even if the gears are different, I still know, like, after a while, after like a little bit of driving the car, I know which gears I could use and where the power is and all that. But if you were to mess around with it, you can, if it tops out, the car tops out at 150, and you know that you have like 700 horsepower car, which probably won't, because the gearing's usually works pretty well. But if you were, you could um you could put your car more on speed, like fifth, third, fourth, fifth. I just repeated fifth. Third, fourth, or fifth gear, sixth even. You can put it more towards speed, and you won't top out on that miles per hour. You go longer in that gear. You could even, if you wanted to, set it up so that your car pretty much never shifts out of fourth if you just put a maximum to like speed, which would be kind of stupid, because your car needs to be it needs to shift, and shifting is what gives you the power to the ground. So yeah, I don't usually mess around with that, but I feel like it's not that much of an important thing. Okay, alignment, that's pretty important for your driving and drifting and all that. Okay, so we're gonna start off with camber. Okay, camber is, if you ever seen, like, in real life, stand style cars, and they have them big like camber sticking out, like the wheels are really tilted. It looks kind of broken. Well, that sometimes, if you do it properly, could actually be functional. Whatever they're doing is not functional, but you could make it. So camber, camber, you should never mess around with the camber in the back. The biggest I go is negative 0.5, but okay, because the more camber you do, the less, since the in the rear wheel, the more camber you do, the less God, I'm forgetting words. The less tire is on the ground, so less you get less traction. And the front, you need to, okay, so if you ever looked at if you ever turn your wheel and you're like going around a corner, if you and you had it like a zero camber, your car's flat if it's like the wheels pointing straight, the tire's flat. But if you turn, not all of your tire is touching the ground when you're turning. So that's what camber does. If you put it you put it a little bit negative, like for track I would put it around 2, and you turn, your whole tire is going to be touching the ground when you're turning. It's not going to be touching like in a straight line, but you don't need that much grip in a straight line, honestly. Only you need it for the rear. That's why you shouldn't be messing around in the rear. But -2 is not going to be bad. You're gonna still have like a solid 80-90% of your tire on the ground, so you still have a lot of traction. But when you turn, 100% of it is going to be on the ground, and that's when you need traction. It's in turns, and that's what it's going to help you with. For drifting, you should usually put it to the maximum. For the track, you should put it at -2, around there, 3 maybe. But -5, because if you want good angles and you want to be able to bring him back when your car's really sideways, you should put him at like the highest it goes. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You just need to mess around. It's kind of, you could work it, you could kind of adjust it to the driving style, like. But that's how I do it. I hope that helps. But all right, toe. I don't really understand toe that well, but all I know is that really toe helps with your stability. Don't ever go negative on toe, because I think I've tried it multiple times and it does not come out good. I found out that toe, if you put a negative or positive -0.1 on rear and front, it does pretty good. But if you keep going either way, under bumps and other things like that, it becomes very unstable. So I just stick to -0.1. Yeah, I feel like that doesn't. Yeah, uh, I don't know. It just becomes really unstable. I don't really like messing around with it. It becomes really difficult. But that's what I found out works the best, and that's what both drifting and track, I like that setup. You might not even feel the difference, so it's whatever you feel like doing. But okay, so the angle is pretty much if you were to do a U-turn, for instance, in a real car, in real life, and you had, the more angle you do, the easier it's gonna be. Like the the least like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, the easier it's gonna be to turn around. The radius isn't gonna be that big. So for drifting, you want your angle to be really high so you can bring it back those really sideways slides. But that's something you should just check on yourself, like adjust it towards your driving style. Because what I found out is that the lower you go, it makes it the car's a lot more stable. So like, it's not like for drifting. Even if you put it in low, you have this, like, you can drift it, but it won't be that big of like a sideways drift, but it will be really stable. And if you put it on high, like your angle's pretty high, it's going to be a lot more twitchy, but you're going to be able to do like really sideways like drifts. Yeah, so that's something you should look at. I do it at 7, but I also spin out. Like, it's really easy to spin out with it. So that's something you should look at. I would just, like, when you're learning to drift or this is something pretty much, actually, yeah, I didn't mention. This is more of like a drifting thing. You should just have it. I would put it at like 3 for like road racing, whatever, on the track. But for drifting, I would tell you to just check it out and see what you like, because when I first was starting learning to drift, I really didn't like this. I really did not like high angles because I was spinning around, spinning out a lot and all that. But once you learn how to do like get good throttle control, that's something you would like. You'll like more because you'll be able to do better drifts and more angle. Yep, more angle, more the better. You can do those wall taps. Yeah, I can't do wall taps, but I wish. Anyway, anti-roll bars. That's what prevents your car from like body roll, so your car doesn't tilt from side to side when you're turning. That's something that I feel like it needs to be stiff on both track or drift. For track, I would do both sides equal, but for drifting, I put the front a lot stiffer than the back, or like I make it not that much stiffer, but I make it stiffer, just because when you're just like around there. But I do the back softer because when you're it's if it's stiffer, it's harder to lose traction. Like it makes the car a lot more stable. That's why you should do it equally when you're doing it on a track. But for drifting, since the back is softer, the front will have a lot more grip than the back, and the back will slide out a lot easier. I feel like I learned from this, so that's why I do it softer. And that also comes to springs. I pretty much applies the same way. For the spring, I usually do the front a lot stiffer. For track, I would do both equally. But here, I do the front a lot stiffer than the back. Oh, I'm still on the front. What the hell am I doing? I am such a noob. Alright. No, but the rear, I do them a lot more, a lot softer than the front, because I feel like it's kind of easier to lose traction and do like better drifts if you do the rear a little bit softer. Okay, height. So for drifting, I lower both sides all the way just to have, I don't know, lowering the car makes it have a lower center of gravity, so um you have more grip and more aero and everything. Just it works a lot better, and you can the car's more stable and it just goes a lot faster. What I learned also though, for track, if you put the front a little bit higher than the back, it's good for when you're braking, because it makes the car a lot more stable when you're braking, because the front's higher. So every time you brake, the front goes down a lot more. Like the suspension compresses mostly in the front. So you have a little bit of like space to not have it like bottom out, I guess. So I found that actually helps a lot in braking. So I'd recommend that. But I usually lower it all the way in drifting because you're not even braking the way you should be. You're just sliding everywhere. So, all right, dampening. That's pretty much the same thing as I did for the springs. I do a lot. It's different in the back. I do the same thing. I do it around there, and that's what I do here. Yeah. So I do the front around 10.8 and the back for around 9.4. And I was gonna do the same thing here. Alright, and then I do the exact same thing for the bump stiffener. That might not be like the good way to do it. There's probably gonna be someone out there that's gonna tell me I did that wrong, but that's how I like it, and I'm recommending that to you guys. Just like I said previously, if you're doing it for the track, I would do them equally, not like what I'm doing. So yeah. Alright, so arrow. I don't actually I can't adjust it here. I didn't put any. I did put arrow on the car, but I don't know why it's not. Some of them work, some of them don't. If you put like spoilers, for some reason some of them don't let you do anything. Like I have the Rocket Bunny one or on it, and it's not letting me. So I don't know. Maybe it's a fake spoiler. They don't consider the Rocket Bunny kits proper. But anyway, that's more that's something you would do. For track, I'd put the downforce pretty. Actually, I don't remember. I haven't done much on this, but I think it depends kind of on the track too, because it's speed and cornering. So you have to like. I put them maybe a little bit more into cornering because most of these tracks, even though if they have high speeds, cornering is what's important. Cornering is where you lose the time. It's not the straights that much. Especially with these like some building up your car to be like 800 horsepower, you're not going to lose that much on a straight if you don't put it all the way on the speed. But for drag racing, I'd put it all the way for speed because you're not cornering. My first tip for drag racing, I actually haven't really done it in these games that much. All right, so brake force. Okay, that's something I usually leave them the way they are, but I'll tell you how to the balance. Okay, if you make it more on the rear, your rear is gonna be locking out more when you're coming into turns, and you're gonna start sliding. If you do it in the front's gonna be locking, and you're not gonna be able to turn because your front wheel will just be locked and sliding. So I usually do it in 50-50, so it's pretty equal rear to the front, and I feel like that works for anything. I actually, if you put it in the rear, that would be kind of good for drifting. But I used a lot of the e-brake, so I use the handbrake a lot, so I don't really care about this. So the pressure, I usually leave it at 100. Yeah, 100. You can do it a little bit. Actually, I've done a little bit more on track, because you can come in a corners a little bit hotter and start braking a little bit later, but not too much because it will also make you just that will actually make you lock out all wheels and just slide straight. So yeah, don't do it too much pressure, but don't do it too low because then you're not going to be braking at all. So all right, differential. So differential, that's let me see for track first. For track, I would say I just put a 50 on both, 50-50. But you could, if you have a really high horsepower car and you're just trying to get as much traction as you can, I'd actually even put it on like lower, so the diffs don't lock out that much. But that just depends on what you're doing. Also, if you have a all-wheel drive car on this, another one will pop up, so you adjust both the front and the rear diff, because it's a all-wheel drive car and they have two. So yeah, but for drifting, I would say I usually lock them all out. I just lock them out. You want them locked out at acceleration and deceleration, because you want the wheels to yeah, you want, I don't know if it's the same thing as like welded. I think it would be the same thing as like a welded diff. It's just all the power goes to the both wheels at all times, and it makes it easier to slide than like not having the diff locked. So yeah, that's the last one. That's pretty much sums it up. Yeah, I hope this helps. Um, yeah, I'll have a soon. I'll have a video coming out showing how to drift and what cars are the best for drifting. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. Subscribe. Just started my channel, so all subscriptions help. So, alright, I hope this helped. Thank you very much.